Welcome back to Let's Analyze Elsword Revamped. As always, there's a link in the description if you'd like to read my fanfiction of Elsword before watching further. In this video, I'll talk about the many changes to the game's plot and characters, how they are improvements, and make other chapter comparisons. Unlike the first chapter's analysis video, this one is jam-packed with a lot to say. It's where the fanfiction really shows how unique it is after the familiar and easy pace of the first chapter. Right from the start, our character perspective is Rose instead of Elsword, and she's at the Tree of El instead of Atlas Station, which is where she normally would start in the game. I know she's a cameo character from Dungeon Fighter Online, but if you're going to make her a playable character who eventually helps and joins the main cast, don't waste her potential by isolating her from everyone for such a long time. It's not until the first half of Elriano's story, which is the 11th region from Ruben, that she joins up with everyone. It would be far more interesting to see how Rose and Zero investigate Elrios from around the same time as Elsword. Considering the game had Zero make her observe him specifically, we can see how her and Zero's opinions on everything develop gradually in this fanfiction as Elsword and his allies do their storyline. Speaking of, we get some insight to how Rose envies the power that Elrians have similarly to the demons that attacked her princess. To the Elrians, this might seem like everyday stuff, but to her it's so new and fascinating, like they're aliens. This kind of realistic perspective really brings to light how powerful the people of Elrios are. As we read from the first chapter, a young boy like Elsword can jump off a cliff and be fine, cut straight through a log twice in 2 swings, and climb a wall one-handed while holding a sword. I like to see a random kid in real life do all that because that's insane. These descriptions of a levitating white-haired man and a rope sure sounds like Ein in Awakening mode. Looks like he means business. I searched both Wikipedias for Elsword and Dungeon Fighter Online, but I couldn't find anything that described how the nitro motor is controlled. Obviously, it's not by a handheld device because Rose's hands are full whenever she's shooting in midair. It also can't be Zero because he's not in Dungeon Fighter Online, where the nitro motor originated. So I just made the idea of Rose having a chip in her brain to control the nitro motor at will, like it's a set of wings. It sounds gross as heck, but I can't think of any other way for the nitro motor to function. The first of many hints of Zero being a liability to Rose is their speed differences. In the game, we never see how fast Zero can fly. Usually, he's hidden somewhere on or in her if there isn't an animation pose that has him present. When Rose uses her chain blade to grab Zero, she is using her bloody chain skill. For those wondering if I'm riding her with a gun blade attached to the other end of her weapon, I am not. Personally, I think gun blades are cool, but when you attach one on a chain and think you can swing it to cut something and expect to grab the hilt instead of the blade for shooting, that's really dumb. So that's why I'm excluding that part of her weapon. Any gunblade specific skills like Bloody Chain will be reworked to accommodate the lack of a gunblade or not included at all. Here are a couple more reasons for Zero to be a liability, but at least he's showing how useful he is, unlike the game where his job as a supervisor is all he's worth. Instead of Rose summoning any robots from her Prime Operator job path, Zero is doing that, which sounds more plausible if these robots are teleported from Rose's world and the person controlling Zero from there can quickly set up where they need to go based on the coordinates. In the Rose trivia on the website Elwiki, I read that Zero was intended to transform into her weapons, but the developers scrapped the idea because it was too hard to implement. However, I think they should have gone the extra mile since that adds more usefulness to Zero as a character while again making him more of a liability. Remember that author note before the first chapter and how I mentioned job paths would be mixed? There wasn't anything like that with Elsword and Reyna, but Rose is a prime example of how magnificent combining job paths can be. Many utilities from each path is separate from the rest, which is such a waste of potential, and we see all of that potential in this chapter alone. Nitro motor for transportation, summoning robots for distractions, chain blade for grabbing and not relying on Zero when he's not available, and a flamethrower or other heavy weaponry when small guns can't do the job. In a world that's completely new and feels daunting like Elrios, having versatility will help someone like Rose adapt to any situation, and this fight with Ein is that kind of time. The springboard effect here with Ein is actually his mid-air jump that he can do if you dash while levitating. When his body plummets straight down, that's him using his X command while in the air to stomp. Another great example of Rose having that chain blade when Ein slashes Zero away. Since he is the source of many weapons that Rose could summon or wield, she always has access to her chain blade to defend herself in case Zero isn't available. Remember how Rose envies the power of Elrians? You'd imagine her physical strength doesn't compare to Ein when they lock swords, but he doesn't immediately overpower her. In Rose's Black Massacre job path, she absorbs the Dark El as a Crimson Rose to become stronger, but since her jealousy is still there, it implies how she wishes to not rely on the Dark El and still be as strong. Rose's world is named Heaven and so is Ein's, but she accidentally finds out that his heaven isn't the same as hers, so this quickly brought the opportunity to find some common ground or at least intrigue to peacefully talk. If you finish reading the chapter, you might have noticed how Ein did not talk about his heaven even though they agreed to talk of both. For those that know Rose's real background, she's lying about a distant continent named Heaven and using technology to fly to Elrios. If you thought Rose's waste of potential in the game was cringy, Ein is even worse. He joins the main cast at Ruben, but his existence fades away whenever Elsword forgets about him. I understand that Ein's body got corrupted by Henir, but why does the boy's memory of him allow Ein to appear or disappear, and why does his appearance and disappearance also make everyone else forget his existence? I know Elsword is pretty dumb, but I can't believe how often he forgets Ein, especially after all he's done for Elsword. Don't see him forgetting Aisha or Reyna even though they've done less for Elsword and joined up at the same time as Ein. It's for these really stupid moments that I decided to make Ein's existence not tied to Elsword's memory. If I didn't do this, the deal he made with Rose wouldn't be possible. I wanted a very simple way of showing how Ein doesn't value emotion, so that's why the denied handshake between Rose and him is there. This chapter confirms that Banthus observed the surroundings to learn any place that someone could make a surprise attack from, which is why he's able to successfully block Elsword's attack in the first chapter. Banthus could have lied to Lo about being a scholar for a chance at grabbing the Elstone for an easy steal, but he didn't, which shows both irony and his confidence in fighting. Remember that weapon durability from the first chapter? Here's where I got to 0%. Since the first chapter was in Elsword's perspective, readers couldn't see what kind of epic fight Lo must have had with Banthus, so of course I had to put on a show in this chapter for Rose, Zero, and Ein. You can fight Lo randomly in the game's PvP, but he's not really special. However, you'd expect him to be since he's Ruben's drill master. When Lo's body radiates a red aura, he's using Elsword's skill, Iron Body. There's this cutscene in Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core where Cloud gets stabbed in the chest by Sephiroth, but Cloud grabs the sword and throws Sephiroth and the weapon at the wall. First of all, Sephiroth could have let go of the sword at any moment, so as cool as the cutscene was, it looked really dumb. That's why Lo pushed Banthus with his own weapon, so Lo made Banthus grip his sword tighter, which is why he didn't let go when off the ground. This was definitely the best climax for someone having the title of Ruben's Drill Master. As the first dungeon boss of Elsword, Banthus looks really tough to be able to survive Lo's attack, but this explains why one Mega Slash from Elsword was all it took for Banthus to back away in the first chapter instead of fighting them after standing up. This also answers Elsword's question of how Banthus can still run so fast because he's tougher than he looks. By far, the best common ground Rose and Ein share is their hatred for demons, and it's so disappointing that the game can't acknowledge that because they only meet after the demon invasion arc is over. A lot of people will agree that Rose doesn't have a personality in Elsword outside of her Black Massacre drop path, but I thought an idealistic, passionate, and spunky personality would really suit her considering what kind of mission she has in Elrios. Birth is Elsword's tutorial boss in the game, but I thought it seemed like a missed opportunity for him and Reyna to focus on Banthus. That's why Rose, Zero, and Ein are dealing with Birth instead. Out of all the dialogue lines in this chapter, I really like what Rose says here. It definitely reflects how her personality is so driven. You're a demon and that puts you on our hit list! Ooh, that's spicy. However, it doesn't top what Elsword says to Banthus in the first chapter. Learn about this, Banthus! Because he's pretending to be a scholar and it rhymes! One of Birth's attacks is an ice beam that comes out of his mouth, but there's another waste of potential in the game by not freezing the ground to add sliding physics, which he takes full advantage of here. By this point I felt like the chapter was a bit too serious, and I like humor sprinkled here and there in any adventure story, so I had Rose say, "Time for roast wolf meat!" It doubles as more character personality too. It's true that Flame Strike and M3 Flamethrower are both spraying fire, but the key differences are that Flame Strike allows Rose to move and aim, while M3 Flamethrower does not, but it has a farther range if extended by spending more MP. M3 Flamethrower is also a bravery type skill, so that triggers Birth's Howl attack, which makes Rose stop holding Zero, but since Zero is the one controlling flames, he can still attack. If the climax in the battle from Lo and Banthus was incredible, I wanted to make this one even better since Rose and Ein worked as a team in this combined attack. What I absolutely love in video games is when two or more individuals combine their attacks to make something stronger than what they would be alone. Two uppercuts might not seem like much if done one at a time, but together they carried enough force to launch something as massive as Birth into the air. Taking full advantage of this, Ein used the Shattering Cut skill against the demon. What do you mean you don't know what skill that is? Okay, here's why Ein is holding the flag of Brazil in the thumbnail. Shattering Cut is actually the English translation of the Brazilian spelling of Ein's skill that is originally named Brocken's something. You can read the spelling in the picture on screen. Personally, I have nothing against Germany, but I don't like how Ein's skills are in German because he's not German. You might be wondering, why did I pick the English translation of the Brazilian spelling? It just sounded cooler compared to the English translations for other languages. If this entire chapter wasn't clear enough with Rose and Zero's relationship, it's the very opposite of Elsword and Lowe's. In fact, it's a lot harsher than how it's portrayed in the game, because the last sentence implies murderous feelings from Rose towards Zero. That also implies the Dark Elf she absorbed is affecting her mentality in a different sense than her princess obsession from the Black Massacre job path. What do I think about Chapter 2 compared to Chapter 1? It shows a lot of potential taken advantage of. There's more fighting, and I really love the character interactions here compared to the first chapter. However, that's not to say I didn't enjoy writing it. The jokes made there are hilarious in my opinion. A hulking Cyclops of man like Vanthus trying to act like a scholar is so funny. Elsword calling the hot spring for her eggs poisonous is just as good, because imagine if everyone who brought those eggs in the game lost HP instead of healing their MP whenever they ate one. Ultimate revenge for all the four who were hurt. Anyway, that's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed watching, and if you liked this video or the fanfiction, show your support in the comments or with a review on fanfiction.net.